warm, sunny day, and our family was enjoying a day of vacation at Salt Creek Falls in Oregon. I was about 4 years old, like most kids my age. I was doing what I did best at the time, just pretty much getting into trouble. However, this time, I did something that almost killed me. While my parents enjoyed the view at the top of the falls, my younger brother and I walked off to explore the world around us. My parents were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't notice I had wandered off towards the edge of the waterfall. At that moment, my dad looked up and saw me about to walk off the edge of a 300-foot cliff. He ran over and grabbed me and saved me just in time. While my testimony may not be as radical or seem as amazing as others, I believe God gives every person a unique story. I grew up in an Adventist home, which I consider to be a great blessing to me. All of my close family and friends are Adventists, and I knew all the Bible stories and common scripture verses by memory. I was in Pathfinders, and I thought my spiritual life was going great, but that's just what I thought. My problem was while I knew about God, I didn't actually know God. Because I knew the facts, I thought I knew God. If someone had asked me why I believed in God, I wouldn't have been able to give a good answer. To put it bluntly, I was ignorant of my state. Fortunately, this all changed when I turned 14. Some friends told me about this camp that seemed very different compared to all other summer camps I had heard of. Instead of activities such as jet skiing and zip lines, they had deep Bible study class, practical classes, and outreach. They also had many strange rules, like no dating, and you have to tuck your shirts in at all times. Despite all this, my friends were somehow able to get me fired up about this summer camp, and that July, I found myself at Young Disciple Youth Bible Camp. Here, I truly met Christ for the first time. My counselors didn't just tell me how to read the Bible, or tell me to read the Bible, they showed me how to read the Bible, and how to take the text in it and practically apply it to that very day, so I was able to gain meaning out of the verses. As I started placing myself in the stories I was reading and searching for meaningful text, the Bible became more alive than ever to me, and I was finally able to see Christ's character for what it really was. That was amazing to me. I was actually able to read the Bible for an hour straight without getting bored, which is something I'd never been able to do before. As my relationship with Christ grew, I began to look for ways to reach out to others. For years, our church would annually do a mission trip to India, and always dreamed of going overseas and doing mission work. But at that point, I didn't think it was possible. Then, one of my friends, you actually probably all know him, his name's Adam, he asked me if I was thinking about going on the Young Disciple mission experience. I thought about it and realized, wow, that could be a possibility. And so I talked to my parents, and they agreed to let me go. And so, shortly after that, I found myself in the Philippines. It was an amazing experience, and it helped to give me a whole new perspective on how blessed I am, how blessed everyone on the trip was here in America. As I worked with the children there, I was able to see a contrast between them and the children here in America. It was amazing to see children with just like one pair of worn out clothes that were playing, with like some old worn out basketball, and they seemed to be happy. And yet at the same time, it was sad to see other kids, just like the age of 12, that were smoking and heavily into drugs. So being there for a month made me want to do more to help less fortunate around me. And so I was thrilled when Adam told me about the possibility of going on a mission trip the following month to Zimbabwe. Somehow God again worked it out, so I was able to go on this mission trip, and it was a life-changing adventure for me. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and yet I enjoyed it immensely. It was a whole new experience, doing things like taking BMI at health expos and doing other sorts of things like blood pressure and things like that. But for me, it was really amazing because even though it was way out of my comfort zone, because I was doing it for God, I actually found a special joy in it that I hadn't been able to find before. It was amazing because I would always get nervous speaking up front of things, like now, but I actually was not nervous when I was able to preach a sermon there, and it was because I was doing it not for myself, but I was doing it for God. And it was just amazing to see the people there, the joy in people's faces that I was sharing with. And they weren't joyful just because of what they were gaining, but because someone cared enough to come overseas and share with them about Christ. The mission trips I've gone on have taught me 3 very important lessons that I want to share with you. First, I've not just heard from other people, but I've seen with my own eyes the need the world has for Christ. There are many people out there overseas and even here around us that are dying and in need to hear the gospel of Christ, and yet they don't have people to share with them. And, it's so easy for me to think, that being here and, just staying in your own comfortable bubble and being a good Christian is good enough, but it's really not. And I realized that when I was able to see the need around me. Secondly, I learned that when I'm doing God's work, I have nothing to be afraid of. God is there to protect me. And that was a whole new concept to me because I'd grown up in a fairly comfortable environment and I'd never been in situations where, I have no control of the situation. And it was really amazing to see how God was able to take those situations that I thought, were unfortunate and turn them into a great testimony, like the accident in Zimbabwe. So that's basically my testimony and what I've come away with, and I could go on longer, but I don't have too much time. So I'd like to challenge each of you, to think about what God has done in your life, not just so that we'll be able to, have answered when others ask us about Christ. We can share with them what God has done personally in our lives, but also so that we don't forget how God has led us in the past and that we have strength to be able to continue in the work God has done.